Talofa everyone, Aogamalie Sione Sione here from Organic Talanoa. Welcome to Season 2. It's been a bit of a journey. We've gone through Season 1. Thank you to those who have liked, subscribed and shared. Want to thank a few people, Campfire Studios with Will and Guy, also Miranda Davis around with the background work that she's doing. Also want to thank our families, our friends that have been supporting this Talanoa. As well, I'd like to thank my wife in supporting this crazy idea. Glad you're here for the journey. Lots more interesting Talanoa. Enjoy Season 2.
This one's for you and you and you. And you and you and you. This one's for you and you and you.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Talofa lava everyone, Aogamalie Sione Sione here. Welcome back to another episode of Organic Talanoa. Just for those who've already tuned in for Season 1, that is still has been released on our YouTube page. Just looking at a like, share if you want, and just be able to subscribe because we've got plenty more to come in. But want to start off with today's guest is James Pulehega. Hope I pronounced that right, bro. I'm going to actually just hand it over to James, do a bit of an intro, and then we'll get into our Organic Talanoa from there. So take it away, my man.
Cool. First and foremost, in the native tongue, so whakalofa lei atu ke matolu osi, whakaue whakamua ke hatua ko whaki mai e aho fulufolo ala nei, ko hingoa aku ko James Kaututama Pulehega, tangata niue, whanau mai e motu ko New Zealand. So hey guys, I'm James Pulega, as also Sione had mentioned. I'm Niuean, born and bred in Auckland, New Zealand. Married, I'm 38, got two beautiful children, Isla, who's 5, and Matthew, who's 3, and also to my beautiful wife before I get in trouble.
Have to, bro.
Grew up in obviously Auckland, more so specifically Glenavon, Blockhouse Bay and Avondale. That was my stomping ground growing up. I currently live in Papakura. I'm a sports fanatic. I love sports in general. I'm competitive, even if I don't know the sport in general as well. Studied a little bit as well. At AUT, so I've got a bit of background there where I do love to get a little bit educated at the same time as enjoying the sports. But I don't participate in any sports aside from CrossFit. CrossFit's been my life for the last wee while.
Nice. Thanks, James. It's quite a bit there. But no, that's awesome because, like I said, that's where all our Organic Talanoa comes in from. Just wanted to touch back on the awesome intro, bro. Love it how we do acknowledge our cultures. Obviously, a lot of us a first generation. Sorry, that's a question. Are you first generation or you knew him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're born in Niue?
No, not born in Niue. So
First generation.
I'll be third generation. Yeah.
Oh, nice, bro. Nice. Just lovely to see you have an intro in there. And just a question on the importance of language for yourself, in particular the Niuean. So I know there's a bit of a revival coming through. The importance of that with yourself, not just for yourself, but just with your family as well.
Oh, it's fundamentally important. I think growing up, I mean, we could speak it, my 5 brothers, and that's accustomed to majority of my first cousins as well. We could all speak the native tongue. We probably just weren't as proficient as my parents, obviously being born and bred on the motu. But it's fundamentally important, I guess with you touched upon that keyword revival. Niue, they've done a consensus and an analysis that only 11% of, I think, the 40,000 plus tangata Niue that live, I guess, are alive today. Only that's the amount of, that's the specific percentage that speak the language, the native tongue. So that revival's key in terms of, I guess, creating that interest. So the younger ones that are born and bred in New Zealand and abroad as well want to learn the language because it's important as well. And I mean, I'll be honest, sometimes you always envy like the Usos, like the Samoans and the Tongans and the Fijians, because like they're by the masses, but also too like you see them thoroughly incorporate their language, their native tongue into just about everything as well. So a lot of the stuff that I've been trying to involve myself in is to be able to showcase that as well, like not just to my kids being half castes, but also too like, you know, if I can create an opportunity where I can show that, you know, I'm a 38-year-old, you know, that is still pushing the native tongue, then awesome. And I wouldn't be the only person. There are a ton of other, I think, Niue out there that are doing the same thing as well, and a lot more immersed directly in the language and the cultural practices and stuff. So, yeah.
I think it's probably a common practice across all of us. It's Pacific as well as, you know, without it dying, I guess we have to sort of start trying like with our generations and then be able to make sure that the next generation do have something to work off as well. Just like anything else, bro, it probably just the language could be lost. The cultural, I guess the cultural protocols can be also lost as well.
Correct.
So, but it's good. Like I say, it's I can see it. Everybody's sort of trying. If you look at in terms of where our cultural identity and that, I guess it will bring it back to your own work, line of work, or the organizations you've been part of. It's like, can you see in terms of like, has there been adopted areas of our cultural values and that being put into identified or used in our organizations that you, or in particular the ones you're involved in?
Not in the ones that I've been in, but I am aware of a couple of schools that have endorsed, and I believe they're the 2 or 3 schools that they have the bilingual unit of Whangahau Niue, which is awesome and amazing, and credit to those individuals that have been a part of that process. I haven't seen it specifically in the working sort of scene, but I mean that's room for growth. You know, in the long term. So.
Do you push it? Like, I guess, like just like your intro today. Do you? Well done, bro.
So any rule of thumb for me is that if I'm at an event or introduction, I always will speak in the native tongue as the I guess the bare minimum of respecting the language, and it coincides with what I'm doing as well. So if I'm going to be pushing a lot of the stuff that I want to be doing around, you know, cultural practices and protocols, as you mentioned. You know, I need to be the forefront runner in terms of, you know, speaking the native tongue as well. I mean, I've always been honest. There are parts of the language that I do struggle with, like in terms of direct translation. Because the Niuean language can be a little bit finicky in terms of the comparison when you translate it. But I always open up, and I always sort of feel like at times, like I'll be honest, like I feel like it's not warranted, but again, it's an opportunity for any of us to, you know, Pacific Island people to speak. You know, you know, you're asking, you know, you're asked to speak and introduce yourself. So, like, I encourage anyone to speak. If they want to speak in their native tongue as the introduction, then definitely do so.
Just for the, I guess if we look back, just what we've come through. Maybe those opportunities for, I'm not sure whether yourself or any of the Niuean groups were able to get together online, or whether they gave you an opportunity probably even to be able to sort of just teach the kids, you know, during the lockdown. So was there anything like that for the Niuean communities?
There has been. So a couple of the boys, Sam Polisi, Eel, and some of from one of the villages, Hakupu boys, who are quite well established in the Niue space. So they managed to put together a Takalo group, and the Takalo group is like I guess our equivalent to the Haka. You know, and we were fortunate enough to have participated in an event where we were going through the revival of our language, and then we participated in that event with at the Ihu Mātau grounds.
Nice.
And then that was going through with Panyanyus, and I guess they were fighting for their sovereignty of land, and then we're fighting for sovereignty of our language and so forth. So that those two mixes sort of became aligned, I guess, for a bigger cause.
Yeah.
So that was probably one event that I was involved in where it was, I guess it was crucial. I guess to sort of answer your question, that had benefits to it rather than it being directly with a lot of the kids per se, which we did have some high school boys that participated, which was awesome. It was huge because we had like 16, 17-year-olds mixing with like us, like mid-30s, and then a couple of older boys in their 40s as well. So we're able to, throw down in an event that was, significant in terms of cultural practices. And then that's sort of been a catalyst to create other opportunities. And I know that some of the other groups have recently run a Te Kaloa event. And I think a lot of these groups, these Niuean groups, have been keen and they're looking to run more and facilitate more, I guess, designated practices, so that way, entice more people to want to be a part of Te Kaloa rather than sort of just see an event on that some of the Niuean boys have put together with some of their friends and so forth. So that creates that catalyst of, of opportunities for the future.
How awesome though to have those generations. So we were talking about you got your young men or young adults coming out of school. Then you've got I guess your family men as well, and then no doubt there was matua there who were guiding the process as well.
Correct.
So awesome to get that connection. And once again, bro, it's growing our culture and also the language as well. So well done, bro. Like I like the sound. I think may have seen a clip of that.
Oh man, it was Sam and Eel and the boys that were behind the scenes, and even the videographer as well, was awesome. I mean, we didn't know what it was going to be like, and I guess being Pacific Island and looking from my perspective, I guess you don't know what, and I will never know what the iu mātau and the iwi there have ever gone through, because it's not, we've never gone through it. And even when you sort of include the Dawn Raid, because we were involved in the Dawn Raid event last year.
Was that you guys that entered the intro? Entrance.
So that was awesome as well. Another like an event to be a part of in terms of something significant that that happened with a lot of our PI people in terms of their migration to New Zealand. So credit to those boys. I think for me, I was just a mere participant that put up my hand because I was keen to be a part of something significant, whether it was the Ihu Mātau event or the Dawn Raids. When you've presented with an opportunity like that, I think anyone was willing to be a part of it. I definitely credit those individuals that I mentioned, because without them, we wouldn't have been able to participate in an event such as that.
Oh, it was massive. Watching it on TV and seeing a few people sort of understood or I know of that were involved as well. So good to see that get across. Just when I was thinking about in terms of if we move back to your line of work, I think you actually had a role with Auckland Rugby League at one stage, and your sales as well. So I guess if I look at the rugby league side, is I'm not sure whether it was coach development or whether it was maybe club support, but in terms of how have you found it just through the last 2 years? Has it been difficult for some of these families to slowly get the trust of what's happening and then come back into sports again?
Oh, geez, yeah. I don't blame families too, and also too when you complement that with the cost of living as well. Yep. Sometimes I can be cheeky here and just push on clubs to work with their parents.
Yep.
Just because the parents are your forefront runners in terms of taking your kids to your clubs, and without your parents taking your kids to your clubs, then you've got no youth development. But in terms of my role at Auckland Rugby League, I was there for 5 years as a coaching and development officer. Enjoyed my time there. We were more so around the coaching, specifically coaching and development. The club support was was another part of the organisation. But our direct club support was around facilitating coaching courses and development courses. That's where we were. And then aside from that was a lot of the event management of school events that you'll be aware of and so forth. So any school event, west, south, east, north, that's who we were. And then aside from that was the secondary schools, and then any additional support with coaching clinics and so forth.
And if we turn in terms of sort of looking at coaches, a lot of them can be volunteers. Like just thinking back, how hard was it? Is it being to get volunteers coming, especially into the club, into the sports arena as well? Because we're always asking for volunteers. They're not really. It can be time consuming. So how's that been with, I guess, the growth in the rugby league?
Oh, I think it had its challenges. I mean, at one stage, I mean, you could assume that, I guess our direct counterparts, Auckland Rugby and every other region were, they had it, good. But I talked to a couple of the guys at the time that were working at Auckland Rugby. They were experiencing the same challenges, volunteers. And, we needed to be innovative in terms of, what we provided to our volunteers, just because otherwise it's their time. But there was a long struggle, and I think there was a struggle right up until I finished with volunteers. If they weren't incentivized, at times it became like no reason for them to want to be a part of it. But then you had some really hearty volunteers that will just turn up. You call them, like match managing for the secondary school comp on a Wednesday was probably one of the toughest. Trying to get individuals to put up their hand, to finish work early before 3:00 to get to school for a 4:00 kickoff. That was always a struggle. And I'm aware, like with one of my old colleagues, Pat Carthy, he struggled with a lot of the everyday weekend football with match managers, and just one initiative that had come through from New Zealand Rugby League was the Beer Sport Just Support with the bibs, with a lot of silent support, trying to create more support and initiative, on sideline behaviour and so forth like that. So volunteers are fundamental, and I know, and I'm fully aware that, all sporting codes were challenged by that, but also too, volunteers as in coaches, right from mini mods and, I guess age grade rugby league, in all sports, so. Do
you find there was maybe a bit of burnout in some of the volunteers or the coaches, in terms of some of them were probably probably just giving up as much time as they could, but not realizing that, man, they didn't have that much time, but it was the same people that were putting their hands up.
Yep, it definitely was the same people. And when I mentioned that word incentivize, that's essentially, like, it almost had come down to that. Yeah. And you had to, the time, one, times are changing. Two, as you mentioned, time is precious. Yeah. And I think now, particularly looking after COVID, as we're sort of coming outside, hopefully we're coming out of a post-COVID world.
Fingers crossed.
People, and the cost of living, people just don't want to, aside from the real hearty, they'll give up everything for their sporting code. Volunteers, I believe, are falling, thin, as the years progress. And I mean, even the sporting numbers as well, in terms of participants, are dropping off, so whether if that will change in future, I'm not sure. But volunteers, so for all those people that are always bagging, referees that, aren't essentially paid. And what people don't realize too is that the referees at amateur level, at grassroots level, the ones that are paid, that are part of the referees association, they aren't paid mega bucks. Really, and what people don't realize is people see the glitz and the glam at the top level, but don't really sort of see that these guys, they might get $100 here and there,
a cold beer afterwards.
And it literally isn't much in terms of if you're going to break it down from an exercise of travel to a game, each week and so forth. And it's these volunteers are big, and you'd hope that people just be a little bit more polite. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I guess always brings in with good sports. But yeah, I'm loved mean, I've loved seeing some of the, in terms of the schools or clubs, and they're putting up signs on just sort of reminding people just to be good supporters. Because, can easily just lose our rag, but just realizing that as adults, we're in control of that. Kids actually follow the way we are. So I guess if we look in terms of stress, into the wellness for yourself, I mean, what do you like? I know for yourself, you've probably got corporate, or I know you've just entered back into the corporate world, but obviously that can be stressful as well. So what do you do? What does James do for an outlet for just to deal with your everyday work?
Oh, easy, mate. CrossFit. No, I'm a big exercise enthusiast. I won't say CrossFit because then people get annoyed. CrossFit is not a cult, people. No. So exercise, I love exercise, but whether if it be CrossFit or anything functional, really, that's usually my outlet. And then wife and the 2 kids. I mean, fun days is normally our Saturday. Yeah, we literally call it fun day. It's the day where we take the kids out, even on birthdays as well. Even if it's my wife's birthday or it's my birthday, it's fun day for the kids. So, like, that's my outlet, really. My 2 sort of, areas to de-stress, and also to not feeling like I have to be in front of my laptop as well. So, when I've got those 2 things going where I'm, looking to enjoy my time with my family, and exercise, those 2 complementary of each other really is a simple formula for me. In terms of being able to de-stress. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's always times where there is the stress, but stress is good as long as you can manage it. And being a manager yourself, understanding your workloads and that. So there's, by the sounds, it's good balance. So the importance of balance in life, I guess, with work, family, and your extracurricular activities you do outside of it. So how's that worked for you? Oh, it's not. It's actually works out quite well at the moment. I think as long as I manage everything accordingly, I'm time with my family, also to time to exercise and sort of refuel the body and the mind, and anything additional to that. Like I find that, like, if you can manage your time well, you always hear that. Like one of the analogies you used to always hear was, punctuality, but also do time management. Like for me, it's like I'm one of those people that will dissect time management. What is time management? And like what people don't realize is that, and this is just my opinion as always, is time management, you only get 24 hours in a day, right? That isn't going to change. So time management isn't necessarily and shouldn't be the priority. It should be task management. It should be focused on the task at hand first, really, and first and foremost, then you'll have a better understanding of what the time frame or the remaining time frame looks like. So I always sort of focus on the task. It's like the same as a sporting field. Like you want to be as efficient and most effective team possible, because then you maximize the time and the space, and you can get into more of the technical stuff. But sometimes you get caught up in the time when really you can't stop time. Time isn't going to stop. Just because you have a sleep, it doesn't maximize your output at the other side. So I'm always big on looking at what I'm doing and then being able to manage that. But I also always get a little bit of flack at the moment, like when I get asked, oh, why the hell are you training at 4 a.m. in the morning? And I say, oh, well, think about it, my wife and kids are in bed, so I don't lose any. The only time I'm losing is my sleep time, and my rest recovery, so I can, I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, I look at that as being more strategic to manage my day. The only downside is that the fatigue sets in, come 10 o'clock. So I've got to, get a few coffees in to sort of keep me going through the day. But that's a big one for me in terms of the management of, if you're talking about stress and tasks and so forth.
Probably good to have focus on tasks. I like the idea of focusing on tasks instead of having a whole heap of unfinished tasks there, and then looking at the end of the day, as you say, and I haven't even finished half of this stuff. So, good approach. And I think there's probably some of us are morning trainers too, so you probably function a lot better. So I guess each individual function a lot better that way. and in terms of how do you find it with your group? I guess because obviously you must have a group of trainers or a training group that you work with. Like, how's that been with them? I guess pushing each other, motivating each other, and well, that early in the morning too, because that's crazy.
It's easy because I train by myself.
Oh,
like Monday to Fridays. And a couple of the boys will jump in if they can, and if they're not too tired. Most of our training group is literally on the Saturday, so that's where we catch up all together, and that's where most of the week has been thrown into one morning session, and it's really just a throwdown to sort of get a feel for where we are at, like individually, and then from there on we'll sort of build a case in terms of how we move forward. The challenge there is that accountability on each other, because we don't see each other, on a regular basis. Accountability is huge to ensure that you are training, because I mean it's easy, and you'll know, like from your training background, you can see the ones that have been putting in the hard yards, week on, week out, and you'll see the ones that obviously probably need to push a little bit more. So
do you use things like because I now understand that you train individually during the week, but do you have like use the Messenger or a type of social media that's able to encourage each other? Because that's pretty difficult to training on your own or to motivate yourself. Do you use that? Do you find that helps?
Yeah, so we use Messenger, and that's our catalyst for managing the comms. But that can only be managed well if people are communicating on it. But in terms of training myself, like I'm motivated always anyway to train. Coming back to sort of like that accountability, that's where we can have the message platforms or the social platforms. It still comes down to the individual at the end of the day. So as I mentioned, like you can still pick out the individuals that have been doing the hard work, have been working on, the key efficiencies to improve and so forth. So
did you guys do anything with that group online over there, the lockdowns? Did you have online training?
Our gym did, yes, as a collective group. So that was just offered to everyone. And I think quite a few, not just CrossFit gyms. I know the F45 guys, BFTs, every group fitness training program had like online options for programs, but also to individualized programs for those that couldn't make the Zoom sessions and so forth. So,
did you find that people just wanted to catch up?
That's 100% what it was. Like literally, like you'll see some people in the background not even moving. You'll see some people sitting, but I guess each to their own. I guess people used it as an excuse here, literally just to catch up.
Missing the face-to-face either.
Yeah. It was, I guess, like anyone, like you're human to not miss engagement and interaction with like your peers or your particularly the ones that you normally train with as well.
Nice. With the I guess we'll bring it back to your line of work now. I'm not sure if you run into any other PIs as you go through, just when you're in your meetings or meeting up with other organizations, networking. Like, is it an industry where a lot are in that in your role, or probably at your level at the moment?
Yeah, yes and no. So at my level, no, but we do see them, and I think we had a brief Talanoa outside before we started this. There are definitely there, but they're in key positions, and they're more in a lot of the PIs that I see when I'm traveling, like sort of up and down North Island, is they're more in the hands-on roles, whereas in the sales space, not as frequent in terms of the PI individuals. So
is that quite intense? Like, I guess when we're talking sales, the KPIs come into mind. I'm not sure whether, like, is that one reason why maybe some of the PIs they probably don't want to really deal with that pressure?
I mean, good question. I'd like to say no, but I do know, speaking from like I guess a Tangata Niue perspective, I see it from a lot of my family members. Sometimes it's that that whole different level of like the scale of push as well. There's the demand, there's the expectation, and hitting your KPIs as you mentioned. So it could possibly be, but it would just be nice, I guess, for to see a little bit more of a representation in some of those key roles.
You know, I just always think about why our PIs prefer to probably stay in the hands-on areas. Like, is there more job security? Like, probably, I don't know, some of them don't want to rock the boat just with their ideas. What's your thinking around that?
Oh, it could be multiple things. Like sometimes you can go down a wormhole of like, you know, presumptions, assumptions, but not sure. Like, you know, like I for me, I just hope that I'm not saying what I do, but you know, a lot of the reasons why I do a lot of the things that I do is to try and help others, you know, like help, you know, like I'm not just talking Pacifica and Māoris, like I want to help people in general, you know, but first and foremost, I am Pacifica and I am Niuean, you know, so if there's a Niuean person that I know is in, you know, next, you know, working at one of my customers, you know, I'll be the first to talk to them and say, hey man, like, you know, what's up, you know, what's your name, blah, 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 and get a feel for them, you know, but yeah, that's a hard one to answer purely just because, you know, sometimes, you know, us as Pacifica people and Māoris, like we become a little bit more reserved, like we're a lot more respectful. No, I'm not saying that not all cultures are, but sometimes that respect could possibly be detriment to wanting to get out in the world and have that growth. And you mentioned sort of unsettling. You're always going to unsettle, you know, like, you know, people. It's like the same as any negotiation, you know, like, you know, I go through a negotiation with, you know, a customer, he may not be happy, and then, you know, he might turn around and say, hey, look, well, that's the end of us. We will probably, you know, not do business with you guys anymore. And that's just how the cookie crumbles. So using that principle and analogy, you know, like maybe that's possibly why, as you mentioned, but, you know, I guess we won't know until we try and sort of understand it more. But we also too need more Pacifica people too, and Māoris, and all other ethnic groups as well, to really sort of, you know, push the boundaries. So if, you know, like for me, my, you know, take is, you know, if you want something, you know, the only person that's stopping you is you, you know. So if you want to be, you know, like the CEO, because one of my goals was always to become the CEO, like, you know, like of the, you know, one of the top, you know, not top 50 NZX companies, but top 5, you know, like you're talking about Fonterra, Fletcher Buildings, Air New Zealand, EBOS, you know, like. But for me, it was more around, it wasn't about a status type of approach, you know, and for me, it was more around the impact, because I know that, you know, like, you know, what I can bring into the role, but also to what I can help create opportunities and pathways. Yeah. That's where I see it. I mean, obviously, like, you know, you get a bonus and $1 million salary here. I mean, who wouldn't say no? You know, but for me, it's always been about helping people and helping create opportunities, you know, whether if you're brown, you know, white, and so forth. But I always say, like, you know, and that's why I always big on the Niue community and the Niue spaces, like, you know, like, what can we do to help? You know, I've done some stuff with, you know, where I was pushing on the Niue government, you know, a couple of years back, you know, on my last trip to Niue, trying to sort of help, you know, from an economic perspective as well. You know, so I'm not just, you know, keeping, I guess, my my support and my direction of support, you know, to one sort of specific area. You know, for me, it's about helping people, because the people are the individuals that, you know, turn the buttons on, that clean the rubbish bins, that, you know, that create the innovation, you know, and so forth. So if you treat people well and you provide them opportunity, I'm pretty confident people, you know, will look after you and return that favor as well.
Just the messages that have come out of our Talanoa is like there'll be probably a lot of impact on your story with our viewers coming through. I guess just to wind it up, and probably just a word of encouragement, and towards not just our PIs in general, but probably around our young adults, the men, and I guess our men in general, especially the PIs. Like anything, you have word encouragement out there for our PI men.
Oh, the biggest one for me is there's no, the word no should not be in your vocabulary. Like, always look to find a solution, regardless of if you've hit a barrier or a roadblock. No should be looked at as an opportunity to find a way around it. Yes. So always sort of take that approach, because sometimes it's easy, and this is not just from one perspective. It's literally just, you know, like sometimes when, you're told no, like I guess trying to make it a little bit more specific, like I went through a pricing contract late last year for quite a big merchant, and obviously it was declined. For me, I didn't see it as a that was the be or end all, and that was the end of the story. I saw it as an opportunity. Okay, well, what have I gained? I've gained a relationship, contact key person within this organization. From there, I've kept a regular comms with this person, and for me, I'm looking at it now that we aren't doing business together with this business, but I'm also looking at it from an awareness and I guess from a brand perspective. They see me, they see that this person is still engaged with the business, so we may not be doing business directly, but that's a win at the end of the day. So you've sort of got to have to change that mindset, to always knowing that a no doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of, the run there. There's always opportunity to look outside.
Look at the lead.
Yeah. And because sometimes it can be, like, I guess, from my experience, sometimes it can be demoralizing too. Like if you're one person that's put your heart and soul into something, and then only for you to be told no, or, unfortunately we're going to be going with someone else, or we're going to be doing business with someone else, and so forth. Always sort of use that analogy and that principle of no doesn't necessarily mean it's the end. It's an opportunity. Yeah.
Nice, bro. Just listening through a lot of our chat. Pretty much went pretty fast, like I said. But thank you for being on Organic Talanoa. And we'll probably release this when we come through, and then I'll get a hold of you. Just listening to the other conversations that were coming off it. It sounds like a part two, especially around your stuff with the government. But that's cool. We'll leave that for another pod. But thank you once again. Just with the viewers that have come on, that have been watching this, not to forget to like, put the thumbs up there, to share it, and even to subscribe for more Organic Talanoa. So just thanking John Pulehega. That was good, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you on the next one.
This one's for you and you and you. And you and you and you. This one's for you and you and you.
Da 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 da.